Just a quick disclaimer before we dive deep into this legendary. At the time of recording my 9.1 Resto Druid video, we thought that this legendary worked on a 100% chance deck system. I'm going to explain what the deck system is later on, which made it a lot easier and more consistent and fun to use. And that's why I wanted to make this video. But funnily enough, in the few days that have gone by, more testing was done, and it was found out that's actually not how the legendary works. So right now, instead of having guaranteed foolish in every 2 convokes, you average out a foolish in 3 convokes, but it's not even guaranteed, which just really makes it a lot less interesting. Although it's still niche and it might see some use. In this video, I'm going to talk about how the legendary is working right now, and how we are hoping it might work in the future, in case they change up the legendaries, so you can pick up the legendary right then and there, and understand perfectly how to play with it, if it becomes the best legendary on every single boss. With that being said, let's get started. In my last video, I promised to cover this legendary, so here we are. Let's talk about the new Night Fae legendary, Celestial Spirits. How does it work? Is it worth the Soul Ash? Where to use it? And so on. First off, let's look at the legendary on paper. Celestial Spirits. The cooldown and duration of Convoke the Spirits is reduced by 50%. Convoke the Spirits has an increased chance to use an exceptional spell or ability. So, what it means in practical terms is that it makes your Convoke a 1 minute CD that casts 6 spells instead of 12, and has a chance to cast Foolish more often. At first, it seemed like a complete RNG mess, but after a few days, we thought and eventually confirmed it works on the deck system with 2 cards, which suddenly made it look like a very appealing choice. Deck system would eliminate the majority of the RNG from this legendary, making it very predictable for the most part and very consistent as well. Now, if you are not familiar with what the deck system is, let me explain. Before I explain, keep in mind, this is how we hope the legendary eventually turns out to be, that every success card would mean a guaranteed foolish. However, that's not the case at the moment, and the success card is a 70% chance at foolish instead. This removes the consistency that made it look so appealing in the first place. So again, because it's important you don't miss this part, everything I'm going to say in the next part will assume that the success card is not 70%, but a 100% chance instead, just so it's easier to understand. Now that we know this, let's look at what the deck system is. If the legendary would work on a 2-card deck system, it would mean that every 2 convokes you cast, you are guaranteed to get a foolish. That means, if you get a foolish in the first convoke, you know for a fact you can't get foolish in the second convoke, in any circumstance, and vice versa. If you don't get foolish in the first convoke, you know for a fact your second convoke will use foolish. This is where it gets interesting, because players who know this fact and understand how to work with it would see much greater success with this legendary, as having a second foolish ready is huge, and if you wanted to try hard enough, you would have multiple scenarios of how you use your normal foolish, so you might have 2 different foolish patterns you follow depending on whatever your first or second convoke foolished. Example, in case 1, you don't get the exceptional spell on first convoke, so you know, okay, second convoke will foolish, so I can use my foolish on the damage spike coming at 145, therefore, I can also use it at the damage spike coming at 325 and 5 minutes. Or, you get foolish on the first convoke cast, and in that case you know, okay, second convoke will not foolish, so I'll use my normal foolish there instead, so our foolish at 115, 3 minutes and 435. Now, this is just an example of what might happen on few fights, so don't be scared that it'll be this complex thing you have to know for every fight. In the majority of cases, just keeping the track of your current place in the deck and knowing what option out of the 3 is your next card will be more than sufficient. The 3 options being 50% chance on foolish, guaranteed no foolish. Let's look at a fight where you use convokes 10 times and how your foolish procs might look like. As you can see, once you get your head around it, this system becomes very easy to understand and utilize if it actually works on a 100% chance of foolish. However, again, that's not the case, and it's a 70% chance at foolish instead. So, you actually never know if your convoke that didn't proc foolish was just unlucky 30% chance of success card failing, or having a non-success card, which removes almost all possible planning from this legendary. As far as where to use it, I'm still not too confident until I get to test it and compare on the new bosses, but you'll for sure know where to use each legendary with what soulbinds, talents and so on once I start doing boss guides. So, for now, we are most likely going to have to stick with playing Unending Growth on majority of the raid fights, with possible use of this new legendary, even in its scuffed 70% state on few bosses. But, let's hope Blizzard changes it to 100% state before the raid releases, because even then, the legendary would have been only slightly better than Unending Growth, but way more fun and rewarding to use. With that being said, see you in the next one. Cheers.